If you're a beginner to yoga and you want to feel a little bit looser, lighter, and more flexible in your hips, then this 20-minute practice is just for you. If it's your first time here, my name is Katie. Thank you so much for joining me. This video is part of a playlist of 5 20-minute yoga practices. So if you're a beginner and you're just trying to get into yoga, doing it a little bit more often, definitely check out that playlist. That way you'll always know what practice to do next. And once you've done all 5 videos, you've hit up all parts of your body. So let's start with the hips today. We're going to begin in a pose called Tabletop Pose. So you can come onto all fours. When you're there, spread your fingers nice and wide apart. Have your wrists directly below your shoulders and your knees directly below your hips. Once your joints are stacked on top of each other, you can push yourself away from your mat so you start to activate all the muscles in your body a little bit more. We'll do a few rounds of cat and cow. So as you inhale, point your tailbone up towards the ceiling. Drop your belly towards your mat. Bring your chest slightly forward and look up. As you exhale, tailbone points down. Round your spine, tuck your chin to your chest and drop your head. Next, inhale, points your tailbone up again. Drops your belly, brings your chest forward and you can look up. And then exhale. Point the tailbone down, round your spine, tuck your chin to your chest and drop your head. Let's keep going a few more, moving at your own pace here. Each inhale takes you up, each exhale rounds you down. And then next time you're back in your neutral spine, you can pause there. So we're back in center. Bring your hips over towards the left and then look back over your left shoulder. Hips can come to the right, look over your right shoulder, and then keep continuing that movement. Just helping to loosen up the hips a little bit further here. Now coming back to your neutral position, back in tabletop pose. If your wrists need a little bit of a break, feel free to just take the weight off of them for a moment. And then we're coming back to tabletop, but this time bring your right foot out to the right beside you. Press into the outer edge of that right foot, and then we're going to do those cat and cows again. So as you inhale, point the tailbone up. Drop the belly, chest comes forward, eyes look up, and then exhale, round it down. So keep going. This time we're feeling a lot more resistance in that right hip, and we're just helping to get rid of whatever might be caught up there. And if it feels good just to pause at one point, feel free to do that and just let all that tension dissolve. You might even lean back slightly, dragging your hips back towards that heel. But just do whatever works for you here. And then when you're ready, you can bring that right knee in. And of course, this time the left foot will come out. So same thing again, let's find those cats and cows. And of course, if it feels good, pausing, maybe leaning back, just exploring. But in yoga, always respecting the limitations of the body and never ever pushing past those. Now we'll come back to our tabletop, and from here we'll come into a wide leg child's pose. So you might have a pillow handy here, especially if you're a beginner. It can be helpful to maybe sit on the pillow. Your big toes will stay together and your knees will come nice and wide apart. So that's going to help to open up the hips. Then your hands can reach towards the front of your mat here, and then try to bring your forehead towards the ground as well. If the forehead doesn't connect, you can always make a little pillow with your hands and then rest your forehead onto your pillow. So let's take a few moments here, really starting to feel that stretchy sensation within your hips. Your mind might start to drift away, but each time it goes outside of your body, just try take it back. Try to focus on your breath, or just keep directing it to that nice stretchy sensation and try stay there for as long as you can. Just a couple more really deep breaths here. Get rid of any last little residue of tension from your hips. And then when you're ready, hands coming back towards the front of the mat if they're not already there. You can remove your cushion if you're using one. Now start to drag your hips up and back. So we're going to come into downward facing dog. Toes come onto the mat. And then once you're there, you might just paddle your feet so you can stretch through the backs of your legs. Again, sway the hips from side to side here, bringing a little bit of movement, loosening them up. Just do whatever works for you here. Remember, in downward dog, you can always keep a bend in your knees. Point your tailbone up towards the ceiling. Drop your head towards your mat. So we're trying to achieve this upside down V shape, but don't worry how it looks. Just focus on how it feels. Take your biggest breath in so far. Exhale, maybe you can sink your head a little bit lower. And now when you're ready, you're going to step your right foot forward in between your hands. However you get there is fine. Once you're there, then drop your back knee and maybe the top of your back foot can come onto the mat as well. If you need to keep your toes tucked, that's absolutely fine. So we're just going to stay here in a lunge, a nice way to open up the hips and to release any stress that might be in there. So set yourself up for whatever is sustainable and comfortable for you. You can always have a pillow or a blanket underneath this back knee if needed. And you can always rest your hands on yoga blocks as well if you have them. So let's settle, taking a few of your deepest breaths. Finding that sensation again within your hips and trying your best to keep your thinking mind with that sensation. Now we're going to make our way into Pigeon Pose. So you can start to heel toe that right foot all the way over towards the left side of your mat, and then bring that front knee onto your mat as well. Keep this front foot flexed. That's going to protect your front knee. And now the top of your back foot will come onto your mat. So we want to just keep the hips lifted here. There is a temptation to drop over to the right. Try your best to avoid that. If you need, you can take a cushion or a pillow or a yoga block and then put it in underneath that right hip to help keep you lifted up. So we're just going to stay here for a few breaths. Again, a really great way to open up the hips. So find that sensation in your right hip. Send your breath down into any tightness that you feel. And if you want to go a little bit deeper here, you can always come down onto your forearms. Just a few more breaths here, just observing whatever sensations or whatever thoughts are coming up. And trying not to label them as good or bad, you're just noticing here. That's all we have to do when we're practicing yoga. Always just noticing the body, noticing the mind, and trying not to get involved too much. From here, you can prepare to bring yourself back to downward dog. So maybe coming back onto those fingertips, back toes will come onto the mat. And whenever you're ready, start to step that right foot back and just release the pose with your downward dog, paddling your feet, swinging the hips, doing whatever you need to do. And then when you're ready, you're starting to bring that left foot forward. However it gets there is fine. Set yourself up for your lunge and we'll stay here for a few breaths, opening up that left hip this time. Now we're setting ourselves up for pigeon, so start to heel toe your left foot over to the right. Front knee comes onto your mat, front foot is flexed, top of your back foot is pressing into your mat as well. Hips are staying square, and you can help them to do that by pulling your feet towards each other or taking that cushion, put it in underneath your left hip. A few big breaths now. Open up whatever pockets of tightness are in your hips and use your exhale to just carry it out of your body. Coming onto your forearms if that works for you. Take your last few breaths here in this pose. And in your own time, you can start to make your way back to downward dog. Paddle it out and do whatever you need to do here. When you're ready, you can drop both of your knees onto your mat and then make your way down to lie on your back. We'll end our practice with a really juicy pose called Reclined Cobblers. So you're coming onto your back and then you're bringing the soles of your feet together so you make a big diamond shape with your legs. If your knees are uncomfortable here, you can take yoga blocks or cushions and put them in underneath. The further away you have your feet from your body, the easier this will be. So find a position that works for you. And then once you're settled, you might have your palms facing up. Relax your shoulders into your mat. Loosen up your jaw. Relax your facial muscles. You don't need to force your knees down. Gravity and your breath will do all of the work. So concentrate on taking some big belly breaths. Keep directing your mind back to the sensations that you feel. And I'm going to leave you here in Cobbler's Pose. So stay for a couple of minutes or for as long as this pose is serving you. And then when you're ready to come out of the pose, just take some time to rest on your back. If you want to do a 10-minute guided relaxation, I do have a video for that, and it'll help you to soak up all the benefits of this practice. But I will leave you in peace now, so thank you so much for practicing with me. I really appreciate you being here. As always, if you liked it, please leave the video a thumbs up or maybe a comment below. And if you haven't already, I would love it if you could subscribe to the channel as well. So thank you so much. Enjoy your time here on your mat, and I'll see you next time.